Good evening, everybody. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes or maybe a minute before we start the webinar, as a few people are still joining us. That's great. I must say, this has been our most popular in conversation with Richard. So I can see people coming on, which is great. All right, well, as it's 6:01 and I want to be very respectful of everybody's time, I'm going to kick off. Thank you all for those of you that have already joined us. My name is Debbie Flynn and I am the chair of the Anglo-Jordanian Society. And I'm really excited today to be hosting this webinar with Richard Rizzo-Hills. It's probably now, I think it's the 8th in our series of In Conversation, which is something we started as I took over as chair and we were in the middle of COVID and we were trying to work out how do we stay in touch with everybody. And as a reminder, really, you know, why we're here and why some of you who are listening today and watching are members of the Anglo-Jordanian Society, and some of you may not be, and hopefully you might consider becoming a member, or you just have a real interest in Jordan. And it's really just about keeping people that care about Jordan from Britain and Jordanians in Britain in touch with each other through a sheer love of the country. And I think sort of on that note, I'd like to introduce Richard Rizzo-Hills, who I have actually known for many years and had great pleasure in working together when he was the creative director. I think that was your title.
Account director, yeah.
Account director, yeah, you. Yeah. You were the creative person, and we were representing the Jordan Tourism Board in the UK, and the team there came up with the most amazing campaign called Extraordinary, and it was everywhere. And I think I put something on my LinkedIn. It won us lots of awards because it really is an extraordinary destination. And what Rich is going to be doing today is sharing quite a special journey with us, showing the photos taken over many years by his father, Alan Beresford-Hills, who spent many years in Jordan. And in a way, when we were going through these last week, it's almost like it's the history of a little piece of Jordan, isn't it, Richard? And I think all of you will really enjoy just seeing the story of your family's Jordan experience through the lens of his camera and through your shared experiences. And I'm delighted that the timing of this has worked out really well, that you've just come back from Jordan. So you had the opportunity to look at some of the places where he took the photographs and share with us what they're looking like now. And I think it's a really lovely story, and I'm not going to spend lots of time doing any more than handing over to you, Richard, to share this wonderful journey. And thank you for taking the time and the effort to collate everything today.
Yeah, and thank you for allowing me to do this. Yeah, I mean, it's been a real voyage, really, a real journey for me, because with my father, he passed away a few years ago, had dementia, and actually going through these photographs, it was almost like an archaeological dig in itself, going through the layers of photographs through not only his time in Jordan, but, you know, his life. And this is a small part of that. So hopefully it will be interesting. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, and hopefully, can you see that? Is that working okay?
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to start at the beginning of my journey, actually, with Jordan. And This is the time when I first went to Jordan. My dad took me over there. My father's working at the British Museum and was invited to be a photographer on the Tel Sidea excavation over there. And first of all, I'd like to thank Rupert, who I believe is listening in, who was able to put some names to faces for me here. So my father is there on the top left of the lineup, and I'm actually on the sort of bottom right, sort of second from the right on the bottom row. That's me. So I was 13, my first experience in Jordan, and my first experience being on an archaeological excavation for 6 weeks, which was absolutely amazing. And so that started my passion for Jordan and for photography, actually, and so it's a nice place to start for this presentation. One thing I'd like to sort of mention also is in the middle of the top row is Dino Konstantinos Politis, who was instrumental in the setup of the Museum of the Lowest Place on Earth in Gorosafi, near to Lot's Cave, and it's well worth a visit. We went there. It's a really lovely little museum and nice little cafe as well. Anyway, so I can get that to work. There we go. So this is my father at work in the dig house at Deir Alla, which is where the archaeological team stayed during the period working on Tel Sidea. The traditional method of drying prints on a hibiscus tree. So that was a nice shot. So starting with my dad's journey in that region, the region of at the time Palestine and Transjordan. My grandfather was in the RAF, and he was stationed in RAF Ramla, and the family after the war was invited to stay with him there, which is what they did. And you can see in these photos. So my father on the left-hand photo is in the middle. In the shorts, and there's my grandmother next to him, and my grandfather on the very right. And so this is at a time in Palestine that was getting quite violent, and so it was decided that some of the families would move to RAF Amman. And so this was my father's first experience in Jordan, was that journey to Amman, to stay there and stay on the base there. And the photograph on the right is it's taken by the Dead Sea on the way from Ramla to Amman in 1947. They were on the journey, they were told to sort of lay on mattresses just in case they were attacked, and they sort of traveled past the old city of Jerusalem down into the Jordan Valley, had a picnic by the Dead Sea, and went over the Allenby Bridge over into Jordan and eventually Amman. So that was my father's first experience of the country. But it's also worth mentioning that so when he was over in Ramla, it was what really sort of put him onto his journey into photography. And apparently one day the teacher, who was an RAF sergeant, took the class into a dark room and showed them how to make a print. And it's from that moment that my father wanted to be a photographer. So really, it was instrumental that journey to Ramla, that stay there. And he actually realized that ambition through the RAF, and there's a picture of him in the RAF and the camera section. The one on the right is in a Shackleton, which, if you know your Shackletons or airplanes, it's a bit similar to a Lancaster, so he worked quite a lot in those. And you can see that he worked in many places, some of which were in the Middle East. So you have shots of this would be around Sharjah. He was also in Aden. And here's another shot. This is when he sort of became interested in portraiture, and it's really a sort of a social history perspective that he was very interested in. So he was interested in the places, but it's really, I mean, it's the people. And so you could see here this shot in Sharjah of this illustrator, and also these shots in Seletar, Singapore. And that's where, as he said, that's where he became a photographer. Really beautiful shots, actually. So tell us idea. So in the 80s, as I say, my father was invited to be a photographer on the archaeological excavation run by the British Museum in the Jordan Valley. And that was exciting for him, because obviously it took him back to his childhood experience. So tell us idea, and I'm fully aware there are archaeologists listening in, and I apologize in advance. Please do correct me. Tell us idea is reckoned to be ancient Zarathan, if you know your Bible. And just as a really brief a description of a tell, and I took this from the Dictionary of the Ancient Near East for the simple reason that archaeologists are listening. A tell is a hill formed from the successive remains of ancient settlements over long periods of time, normally formed of mud brick, and normally built over the ruins of previous settlements. So over the time, as settlements are, previous settlements are leveled and new settlements are sort of built on top, the hill grows and it becomes this sort of artificial hill, a tell. So that's pretty much what it is. Any archaeologist will explain that better. So tell us idea is in the Jordan Valley. It's sort of roughly halfway between the Dead Sea and Galilee. And more specifically, it's Tell us idea is a little bit north of Deir Alla. Deir Alla being the village at the time where the dig house was, where the work was, with lots of sort of administrative work and sort of post-excavation work was took place, and where the archaeologists stayed. So this is the site of Tell us idea. Picture there of my father working, taking a photograph. And on the right, a bipole or a dipole, depending on your sort of bias, which was loaned to the excavation for overhead photography. So this is what you know, the method of taking overhead photos before drones, I suppose. I remember my father actually being a little nervous about the use of it, being so near the border with the West Bank, and you know, at a period of time when effectively Israel and Jordan were, you know, there wasn't a peace treaty signed, so effectively it was, I suppose. So, you know, obviously being watched on both sides of the divide. But anyway, nothing happened. Another couple of shots. So this is Dino and possibly Joy McCorriston on the upper tell of Tell us idea. And there's a shot of the tell itself. And again, life on site. This is Rupert and Barbara Pritzkat on a particular area on the upper part of the tell, overlooking the lower part. Incidentally, if you would like to find out more about the excavations on Tell us idea, there's a rather good sort of permanent exhibition at the British Museum. And also, please do check out the Palestine Exploration Fund, where there's lots and lots of information about it. So in terms of the local workers, and the local workers were, you know, formed the bulk of the portraits that my father took, which we're just about to go on to. There were roughly sort of 80 of them on site each year. And when they weren't working on site, they were predominantly working on local farms in the Jordan Valley at that, you know, throughout the rest of the year. But you can see there's some nice sort of group shots there of them. And there's a conservator, Sandra Smith, with Salem, who worked at the Dig House. This is the Dig House by Tel Darala. There's another shot within the Dig House. So you can see it's a sort of courtyard with sort of rooms around the edge of the courtyard, and the rooms sort of formed the bedrooms and the workplaces. And from memory, and people may be able to correct me on this, but from memory, I think my bedroom was on the right-hand side, so next to the steps that you can see on the right-hand picture. Might be wrong about that, but that's my memory of it. So the portraits. So we start with two local ladies, Salem and Fatma. They were employed for sort of the cleaning and cooking duties. And I particularly remember Fatma. This is Fatma. I seem to remember that she was a little bit hesitant with sort of plugging into the electric, plugging a plug into the socket. She's a bit sort of hesitant about electricity, but she was tough. I mean, she could open a sort of Pepsi bottle with her teeth, but she really sort of looked after. I remember her looking after me particularly, as opposed to the youngest person on the team, as it were. But everyone as well. I mean, she was a really sort of lovely character. This is Salem. Again, from my memory, and these are memories from over 30 years ago, so so please bear with me. But Salem, I remember cooking for us, I believe. Again, a really sort of lovely, friendly person, and when we sort of came back from site, it was, but for me particularly, it was always sort of joyful, sort of seeing Fatma and Salem there, was there to look after us. And here we have Isa and his son. Isa was the caretaker for the Dig House at Darala, and it is me being 13 at the time. Basically, I hang around with his kids. Unfortunately, I don't remember their names, and I would dearly love to find out what happened to the family. But yeah, I mean, and actually, it's as a 13-year-old English person from South London, to spend 6 weeks staying in this Darala archaeological site, going on site, but also hanging around with the kids. One day going to one of their schools, it was the oldest one's school, for a day, which was absolutely terrifying. There's not many people can have that sort of experience, and I'm sort of forever grateful for it. And now we go into the sort of portraits of the workers, the local workers. Unfortunately, these are people I certainly don't remember the names of, but as Rupert said, they were absolutely lovely people, and some of the finest field archaeologists he's ever sort of come across. Absolutely instrumental to the success of the dig. So I'll just run through these.
They're super good looking, aren't they, Richard?
Oh, they rock it. They rock the look, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. And I again, people may be able to provide some more information, but sort of judging by the kafirs that they're wearing, I suspect there's a mix of Jordanians and Palestinians here. People may be able to sort of enlighten on that. Rocking those sunglasses. Love this one. He was very clearly proud of his diploma, so I'd like to sort of show it off. This is one of my favourite photographs. I think one of the favourites of my dad's as well. And
were they hidden for a long time, Richard? Some of these?
They were, well, one or two I knew about. This one, because he sort of printed it and had it, you know, framed and everything. Others not. So a lot of these, and certainly a lot of the, I mean, certainly the ones of the kids, which we'll come up to, and of the Jordan Valley, they were hidden. And there's one or two here in this presentation that I discovered over the weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's, I mean, and
Gift
you
that
know,
keeps on giving.
yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, it is, as I say, it is kind of like an archaeological dig, this sort of strata of photographs that I'm sort of discovering more about my father and his work and his talent.
Fabulous.
This one I love. He could be Sicilian, that guy.
Or Omar Sharif.
Oh, Omar Sharif, yeah. I think there was, well, wasn't there a, this is a question for the archaeologist, wasn't there a, someone on site who's called Sharif Omar? I think there was someone, yeah. So, yeah.
In fact, Ferial has just asked a very good question. Why are they hidden? So maybe that's something to think about, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah, well, it's partly because there were so many of them. And my father photographed from the 50s constantly up until the, you know, the 2010s. But also they became more hidden, I suppose, that in the sense that my father had dementia, and as the dementia progressed, it's his study, he started sort of hoarding and things like that, and the study became sort of quite full of things, photographs, all sorts of things, documents, all sorts of things. So it's a combination. I mean, certainly his photographs from the RAF, they those I hadn't seen at all, and certainly his memoirs I'd not seen. And he wrote about his time in the RAF, his childhood, his time in Jordan, and I am absolutely thankful that he wrote them, because these are things I didn't discuss, which I regret, but I'm glad he wrote them down. Now I know about them. So yeah.
Well, my father had dementia, and he took great comfort in looking at photographs from the past, because they meant something to him. So
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That it is so important. Yeah, and when he sort of was in hospital, he'd sort of talk about Jordan and Singapore, which is his, you know, his two favorite places. So
we're all loving it. Sorry, I'm gonna stop interrupting you. I'll let you carry on.
And this is another one. This is one of the few color ones actually of the portraits. And yeah, this I like too. So this chap was, you know, obviously was in the I guess the Jordanian Armed Forces, I'm assuming, but also, so that's him in uniform, and then I think this is the same person. I think it is, and then him with his family. And these photos I love. The kids, local kids. It's like real joy there. And this, I think, must be by Telesidea. And I'm assuming, given what she's holding, she must be sort of a shepherd or a goat herder or something like that. It's just sort of just happened to take a photo of. So this is a photo that never saw the light of day, and I did quite a lot of post-production on this actually. Probably not to the skill of my father, but I gave it a good crack anyway. And this is this I remember from 86, horses ploughing in the Jordan Valley, and as Rupert sort of helpfully noted, this plough is called an ard, and the soil in the valley sort of forms a crust of which sort of becomes impermeable to water. So So you need this this ard to kind of plough it over, but avoid deeper ploughing that can sort of damage the soil structure, which the ard doesn't do. So there you go. And you know, we went down into the Jordan Valley. We visited Tel Assaidir, went through Deir Alla, and noted the changes in the Jordan Valley. And I mean, what I remember is it being as open as this photograph. Everything is very wide open, and now it seems more more sort of broken up. Lots of high fences, big farms owned by quite big companies. I saw a farm owned by Syngenta, which is kind of like Monsanto. So there are clearly changes, but also it's quite a lot of sort of manual labor there still. A lot of people we noticed sort of working on site, and I didn't see anyone ploughing and using a horse. Maybe it's still being done, I don't know. Didn't see it. So the Jordan Valley, it's, I mean, as my dad sort of wrote, these notes incidentally on the slides, these are from my dad's memoirs, so I just lifted them from his memoirs. And he sort of notes that it was well farmed and irrigated, major crops being tomatoes and onions and asparagus and various vegetables and lemon groves and oranges and all sorts of things like that. Quite a bit of support from the Canadian government at the time. We sort of noticed that there was some support from, I think we saw China mentioned. There's somewhere else I can't remember there was mentioned. So you can, so there's clearly some sort of development, some money going into the infrastructure of the Jordan Valley, certainly now. But he notes it, and it still retains this. It's a place of considerable beauty and of historical importance. And there's Tel Deir Alla and Tel Assaidir, but other many other historical sites, including Pella. Pella, one of those places I think more people should visit. It's a really lovely sort of site. Here you see the irrigation systems in the photographs as well. Very lovely shots there. So this is a view of the village of Deir Alla from Tel Deir Alla. Now we drove through Deir Alla. I would not describe this as a village anymore. It's quite big. Certainly a small town. It's got quite linear across, on the main road that goes up through the Jordan Valley. But yeah, it was very busy. Quite big. So I think, and I don't remember it being that way. I think it's certainly more like a village back then, but we can see these sort of quite dramatic photo there of the village from the top of the Tel. Used to get great thunderstorms, I remember. Here's a before and after. So on the right, the photo that my father took, there's a petrol station there with a tractor, and now it's you'd sort of have to look for the Tel now. Bit more obvious back in the 80s and 90s. And some other shots of Deir Alla, Tel Deir Alla. You've got an outside shot of the dig house on the left. Dig house jointly being owned by the Jordanian Department and Leiden University. And the third image is of Fatma's house. And there's like a little structure next to it, sort of just in front of it, which are beehives. So I believe that the house is mud brick also. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's my sort of recollection of it. But the middle shot, that sort of north of Tel Deir Alla, sort of looking south, that's more built up. It's still, there's still fields there, but there's more buildings on the sides of the road. There's a rather lovely mosque a little bit further north, actually. A lot of money went into that mosque. It's so clearly it's an important place.
Richard, Monique's wondering if Fatma's house is still there.
We didn't have the opportunity to sort of go down the road, unfortunately. I did some sort of Google map satellite image looking, and which was quite recent. I think it probably is based on that, but unfortunately we didn't see it. We didn't see it face to face.
It's been quite an experience living in a dig house as a child. I mean, not
Oh,
many
yeah, I mean,
that, can they?
I mean, it's amazing, and you could sort of go on the roof. There's like a flat section to the roof, where you could sort of go up and sort of read, and where after washing the sort of various sherds and pots and whatnot, and they'd sort of be put up there to dry. But yeah, no, it was. I mean, it was amazing. You know, and actually in 1986 it was my dad's 50th, and I'm 50 now, so there you go. So yeah, same age. I think he looks a bit better than me, to be fair, but anyway. Yeah, but I mean, it was amazing to, you know, hang around with the kids. So we went into town, you know, and I remember the chicken shop where we'd sort of go in and choose our chicken. It would be taken out the back and dispatched and, you know, returned to us. And you know, I just and also I spent a lot of time, you know, hanging around with the kids, as I say, and, you know, just wandering around and, you know, exploring the area, and the food. I haven't mentioned the food yet. The food is amazing, and it is in Jordan anyway.
But it is, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I bet you experienced that the other week, didn't you?
Absolutely. Do you know what, the thing I looked forward to most was a simple man, I guess. What was the bread and the hummus? And I yesterday I attempted to make some hummus in the style, but it didn't work, not very well. Yeah, and the baba ganoush, and, you know, and yeah, oh gosh, yeah,
making us all hungry now.
yeah. You know, it's getting to that time, isn't it? So here's some other shots of the Jordan Valley. You know, you can see the I don't know what you call those greenhouses, I guess. Telesidea again, and of course the excavations were that took place in spring, sort of March, April, May, from my recollection. So this is 1996, actually. I believe that was the last year of the excavations there. That's a sort of lovely shot on the left, and I don't know when the one on the right was taken, but that's one of my father's favourite shots, actually. That when he did get printed. So we have some shots of Wadi Halawa, and courgettes, and apparently courgettes and sunflowers in the foreground, and an olive tree. And some shots from Telesidea and Jordan Valley. So the right-hand photo was the road that it takes you from the north side of Sidea towards the Jordan River, and we took that, actually. We were there 2 weeks ago, and we took it, and very at the sort of western side of the tell, there's now a sort of checkpoint, and sort of really friendly, really lovely Jordanian military personnel sort of guided us back to Deir Allah, because we're clearly going the wrong way.
So the one on the right was from your recent trip?
No, that's my. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's not changed so much, actually.
Right.
Still sheep around, and still fairly wide open. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's that part is fairly unchanged. Yeah, it's
I guess there's a lot of Jordan that hasn't changed, and then there's a lot that has, isn't there?
well, that's the thing, and certainly what we'll sort of go on to in the next few slides, actually, that the changes that have taken place. I mean, it's and certainly with Oman as well. Now, this shots of the Jordan Valley. So the one on the left, so that's looking east towards the sort of Nochin Hills through which the Kafrinjis sort of stream sort of flows. The Kafrinjis kind of starting more or less around Ajloon. And my father was forever looking to take a photo of this sort of small mosque. It's a kind of basic sort of bare concrete minaret on this mosque. And it's sort of on the trip from Deir Alla to Tel Asaidia, he'd sort of stop the car and have a look and say, no, the light's not right, and then drive on. And I don't think any of us know whether the light was ever right and whether he actually took that shot. I think the photo on the right, and I'm, someone watching may have more of a clue. I think the photo on the right is of that minaret. I don't think this is the shot. It doesn't look like the shot that my dad would have wanted, but yeah, I think that is it. This is Khirbet Al Wahadina, which is on the way to Ajloon. Ajloon being about 30 minutes from Deir Alla. Another shot through the of the Jordan Valley landscape. Wadi Zarqa. My sort of first thought about this was I thought when you sort of described the Jordan Valley in that way, that this was further north. There is a Wadi Zarqa, which is right by the Dead Sea. This could be it. I don't know. Any guidance would be really, really appreciated with that, because I don't know. But that is described as Wadi Zarqa by my father. And here we go, a couple of old photos. So Great Ajloon Mosque, the minaret being built on a church tower. And Ajloon, quite famously or infamously, had a bar called Alan's Bar. And of course, my dad, Alan, appreciated that quite a lot. And I think people went up there fairly often. But yeah, he did talk about that quite a lot. That did amuse him.
We don't know if that's still there or not, do we?
I've looked. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. We went to Ajloon actually, and I did look out for it, and I also did a sort of Google search, but I couldn't see anything. So I think maybe not. It would have been great if we did find it.
Well, hang on, let's see if anyone knows. No, it's not, sadly.
Oh no.
Well, thank you for telling us. You didn't miss anything, Richard, right?
Ajloon's great, actually. And Karak, street scene in Karak. There. And looking at change, I found these quite interesting, actually, because the shots here, so on the right, that's a shot my father took at some point in the early 90s. And sort of Hadrian's Arch in Jerash, and on the left, Hadrian's Arch in Jerash now. So you can see the amount of restoration that's taken place at the site, and I believe it's early 2000s, perhaps 2004, 2005, that was done. I studied heritage conservation at uni. Actually did my dissertation on the impact of tourism on the archaeological heritage of Jordan. So even at uni, and I would be interested to know whether the stonework that was used to sort of rebuild it was the actual stonework from Hadrian's Arch, or some way it's been sort of copied or what.
Well, Richard, you've got yourself. Yes, I feel like I'm putting people together here. Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
We've had a fabulous reply from Konstantinos Politis, who will, once he's got your email, which we can share, thank you very much. He can answer many of the questions, and I do many of the photos. You might need to have a one-on-one. It's a shame on these webinars.
Yeah, no, totally. No, absolutely.
Onto the
Yeah.
screen, isn't it?
Yeah. Love the museum, Dino. Loved it. Loved it. Right. Brilliant. Okay. Crusader Castle at Carrack. Again, my picture on the left and my dad's on the right. And this is the thing. I mean, it's with a lot of the sites back then, they had the feeling of being untouched, whereas now there's firstly a lot more tourists there, and there's more infrastructure there. So as simple as, you know, as fences and gates and whatever. There were an awful lot of people at Carrack when we visited. I waited until they weren't in the shot to take my shot, but there were an awful lot of people there. And again with this, so this is my shot on the left, my dad's on the right, and you can see even with the sort of below the walls of Carrack how it's been reinforced now against, you know, how it used to be. And in terms of development in Carrack, that's yeah, been an awful lot of development. Petra as well. So on the right, the awful lot of photos towards the start of the walk down to the Seek from the entrance, whereas now that's all been sort of cleared essentially. And the buildings in the background of the older photo, I believe that's Brooks Hospital for Animals, which I don't think is there. I might be wrong about that. I didn't see any signage or anything like that. But and then we have a couple of my dad's photos only, sort of Roman theatre, Nabatean Roman theatre at Petra, and Bedouin Cafe, and again the infrastructure there, the how it's been built up with the cafes and the restaurants and the toilets and the path down for the tourists and the sort of water management systems. The changes are huge. Although, of course, the sites themselves, they're predominantly remained unchanged. I mean, there's obviously been some work to some of them, but you can, you know, the amphitheatre is, it's very, very similar in that respect. Incidentally, the first time I went to Petra, that was that was, we arrived after dark, and we actually stayed in the building next to, I think, Casa Al Bint in Petra, which were, again, amazing experience and something that you can't do now. Instead, it's all swanky hotels and things like that. Very lovely hotels actually there now. So so these are my photos, and this is a new addition, or reasonably new addition to Petra. So this was actually built in April 2019. So the last time before this year, the last time I went to Petra was for a conference, 2017, I think, wasn't it? And this wasn't there. There was a museum, but now that's simply just a sort of ticket hall. And this amazing building has been put up, and a really lovely museum. Actually, I was really impressed with it. Really, it was architecturally, I loved it as well. And Amman, Amman is like it's sort of a tale of two cities. You know, you have that sort of very traditional downtown, the souks and the craziness of the big city. And then you have the very modern side of Abdali Mall. We stayed in a hotel, La Lacanda, which is a great hotel, by the way. It's the whole sort of the theme of it is based upon Jordanian musicians, and each room is not named after a Jordanian musician. And but just down the road is Abdali Mall, which is next to the King Abdallah Mosque, the big mosque, and it's like super modern, you could find something similar in any European or I suppose American city, but obviously it's got that, you know, Jordanian, Middle Eastern sort of bent to it. It's an amazing place. But then you have the sort of the opposite almost of the souks, which I absolutely love. And walking down, Vespers are, you know, I love this shot of the Vespers. I wish there was a white one as well, but you know, you can't have everything. And also street art. And of course, there was a talk not so long ago of the AJS on street art. And these were just around the corner, and you had the, you know, obviously the one on the left is quite a political one, and then very non-political one of the spray can, but lots of amazing street art. And if you're into that art form, Amman is a really great place to visit. And of course, there are the tours that can be done there.
I love it.
And also, so we went to the fort of Machaerus, and again, if you know your sort of biblical stories, Herod Antipas and Salome and John the Baptist, that story. And but also what I loved, I mean, I loved the fort actually. It's you know, archaeologically, that really sort of, I think, is amazing. That it's connected to such an amazing story as well. But just around the corner in the town, Mukwir, is Bani Hamida, which is a women's weaving project. And this is another thing which I've sort of noticed, lots of sort of investment, lots of cooperatives popping up, helping, in this case, particularly sort of local women. And the Bani Hamida Women's Weaving Project has helped over like 1,600 women make money from their sort of traditionally made products, handicrafts. It's supported by the Jordan River Foundation, and this is the photo of the one of the rugs I bought from the project, and you know, just beautifully made.
And they've had a lot of great press coverage about that project over the last few years. It's so
yes,
brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a really sort of lovely lovely project, and you know, really sort of helps the local communities, and you know, and yeah, we bought a few things there, and we stayed. This is the last slide. We stayed down at the Dead Sea, and in one of the big resort hotels, and which was a lovely hotel, a really lovely hotel. What we wanted to do is kind of experience some of the you know, the local community, and we found this amazing restaurant, Bayit Swema, which again is a sort of cooperative. It was created with the support of UNICEF and BDC. It's a civil society in the Dead Sea region, and it's essentially to help the sort of local women in the area. You know, and in this case, it's a successful, amazing, really good food restaurant. And I would encourage anybody who's down there to go and visit it. This is Suzanne, who's the chef there. One of the chefs there, and actually, if you want to see like a little TV report, there's the TV channel Al Mamlaka TV. They've just released like a little video. It's just in Arabic, but it's got an interview with these people, and Suzanne's in it as well. But you know, you sort of drive into these into this sort of residential area, and you wouldn't know it's there. but you sort of park up and you're sort of invited, you know, so you go in through the very simple door, and you're sort of ushered up onto the roof and then fed this amazing food. And yeah, absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's my father's photos, and I suppose the legacy of those photos. And one thing would like to say, sort of reiterate again really quickly, is you know, if you are interested in Tellus Idea and the archaeology of the region, do check out the BM, the British Museum, and the Palestine Exploration Fund, who have a little museum in Greenwich. But also, you know, in Jordan, check out the lesser known sites, like, or lesser visited sites, I should say, like you know, Makarus, and we went to Bab Edra, and I was very excited by it. I'm not sure if my my sort of
I've not been there. Not been there.
It's a desolate place. But Bab Edra, it's the supposed site of Sodom from the story. Huge. Is kind of two parts. There's the sort of the city part, I suppose, the town part, and the cemetery part. And we spent some time on the cemetery part, and you know, and I think it's sort of enough to, you know, just to visit it and be there. You know, it's where these stories originated. But also like Pella, you know, people quite often, they stay in Amman and they, you know, do Jerash and Mkes and Ajloon, which are all amazing sites. Pella is equally lovely sites, and the museum at those places at Gorasafi, and you know, these are all these little sites that you can visit and do it.
Gems, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah, little gems. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think it might be your lucky day, because Fariel says thank you very much for sharing the photos, but I think Dina's going to try and do something technical, so maybe we can hear from Dino.
Great.
Oh, there we are.
Unmute.
Yeah.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you're unmuted. Lovely to hear from you.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you very much, Richard. I would not have recognized you walking down the street.
That's fair.
Obviously, I knew you a long time ago.
Yeah.
And been to your house, but it was a long time ago. Thank you very much. I have a lot to say, but I'll email you, and hopefully we'll meet in the near future.
Absolutely.
And I can help you identify. But I think there are probably other people online that also were there and can also help you. But great photos. I don't know. There's a lot I can say, but maybe not right now.
Well, I was trying to persuade Richard, actually, and this is still on the cards. It'd be really nice to have some kind of exhibition of some of these photos and all get together in person. So, you know, maybe that is something that we can work on. But the great use of technology that we have now is that, well, we don't need to wait to get a date in and try and get a venue. We can actually start and share them with people. But I you know, I was very touched when we were going through them the other day, Richard, and so pleased so many of you joined us, because everyone here has got a connection one way or the other to Jordan. So I'm sure it stirred up many memories and was just very enjoyable. I know it makes me want to get back on a plane and go and see some of these hidden gems. So, and Louise Martin's also talking about you overlapping on the site too. Great talk, beautiful photos. So I'm going to share your email too with Louise, which is fabulous. So
thank you.
What if you were to sum up, Richard, what would be your greatest memory of your father as a photographer in your times in Jordan?
Oh gosh, as a photographer, he was I mean, he photographed many different things. He started, I mean, his first photographs were of a farm he worked on in Wales, and but he sort of photographed many things: industrial, architectural, portraiture, you know, and obviously archaeological and landscapes and whatnot. But his interest in the people that he was photographing, I think, is and you know, and which aligned with his kind of social view, his interest in social history, and it sort of made me interested in what Jordan as a place, but the people, and that's that is the thing that kind of is the biggest takeaway. I mean, actually, funnily enough, it was my dad's birthday on the 24th, which was our sort of second day in Jordan this time round. And I said to the guys we were with, without my dad, we wouldn't be here. And that's it. I think that's it. It's an introduction to something which is very different, and from Orpington, South London, upbringing. And I mean, I remember even at school, I was kind of borrowing my best mate Dave about Jordan constantly, and because it is such an amazing experience. And this time round, I thought, well, this is my 4th time in Jordan. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it back, but now I'm planning to go back. It's one of those places, it brings you back.
I think you're so right, and I think that's what connects us all really on this call today. I mean, my first time in Jordan was when I was working for British Airways, and then my best friend was the country manager for British Airways that then became BMed, and I would, for 4 years that she was there, I went to see her, and we had the most amazing times out in different Crusader castles, and met the most amazing people who still in touch with to this day. And then obviously had 21 years representing the Jordan Tourism Board in the UK. So I do, there's a connection that's there forever now, and I think that is what's connecting all of us that are here today on this webinar. And I do hope there'll be occasions where we can meet in person. We had a wonderful supper just at the beginning of the year, and we weren't quite sure how many people would come, and in the end we had a waiting list because the restaurant only takes so many people. We're going to try and do more of that, and it's nothing more complicated than sharing memories and stories and the love of a very special country that brings us all together, isn't it? And that's what you've done today. I think it's difficult, isn't it, when we're not all in the same room, but I'm hoping that everybody that's we've had some lovely comments. Thank you, everybody, and you've touched, I think, everyone's heart tonight. So thank you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity. It's and this is just scratches the surface of what there is there, and from the perspective of the photography, but also what there is to explore in Jordan as well. So.
It makes me wonder if it's. I said, yeah, you've inspired me to wonder if I should take a photography course. You're never too old, are you?
I do it.
Take something new up. Absolutely inspired as well. I don't know if there's any more questions from anyone. We've got a couple of minutes left, so feel free to put anything in the chat box. Sophie's also said thank you very much, wonderful photos and conversation. So maybe we'll wrap up with the last few words from you, Richard.
Well, I mean, yeah, again, it's just thank you for the opportunity. I think this is something that I hope, doing this, I hope my father would have sort of appreciated and liked to talk about, not necessarily to, show off his photo, but to talk about Jordan and the people of Jordan. That's what he was sort of passionate about. And if there is a opportunity to have some sort of exhibition, great. And there is that idea there about possibly for charity, selling some of the photos, but that early stages of talks for that. So
yeah.
we can sort of talk.
No, I think that would be lovely. And one last question actually from Susan Vincent. Have you got any photos in the collection of Woody Rum? Must have.
Yes, actually. Yeah, they nearly made it in.
Didn't
But
quite
I
make
can
the
certainly
cut.
share. Yeah, no, I can certainly share. There's some again, I mean, Wadi Rum is, yeah, it's because this is very, quite nice visitor centre there. And when I went 20 years ago, because we had our honeymoon there, it wasn't
Not
there.
the visitor centre.
Yeah, it was not. I mean, there was someone, I can't remember his name, but someone who was a friend of my father's, Bedouin. He was an extra in Lawrence of Arabia.
Wow.
Yeah, so and he sort of we located him, and he sort of took us around, had a sort of Bedouin, barbecue kind of thing, and yeah. So everything's kind of, it changed but stayed the same.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end. And just thank you everyone for giving us an hour of your time. It's been a lovely hour, Richard. Thank you. And what we'll do is we will email a recording to you all, and including, if that's all right with you, Richard, your contact details, so that if anyone wants to have an extra chat with you, then they can do. And hopefully, if we've got anybody on today that would like to become a member, it's only £20 a year, so we'd love to have some more members, and hopefully we'll see some, if not all of you, at future events. So good night from us, and thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Bye.